Guys, can you hear me? All right. Well, literally about 15 minutes ago, Doug and I were in here, and we were talking back and forth fine. So it's ridiculous how these things decide to work. I don't know if it's the headsets or GoToWebinar, but that's annoying. So, all right. But you guys are here. So let's go ahead and get started. Apologize for that. Welcome aboard our 2016 Debrief and 2017 Brief. We were supposed to have weekly options today at 1, but obviously the market's closed. And we didn't, for whatever reason, get out an email that said, hey, market's closed on the 2nd, and we'll do a joint weekly options primary live trade brief. So that's, I guess that's on me. But we'll still knock out our normal session tomorrow morning at 9, kind of a joint brief tomorrow morning. Like I said, hope everybody had a great New Year's and a very, very Merry Christmas. I did with my kids and with Annie. Annie took me out in Miami. Actually went to the Versace mansion for a beautiful dinner and then a night out in Miami. So it was, and I'm another year older, so I survived. And best thing about a new year is it's a clean slate. We can start completely over and we can do whatever we want to do with our lives, with our trading, with everything. It's just, even though it's just another day, it's just mentally something, you know, just pulling something off the calendar and seeing a new date. It gives you a reason to be reborn. And if you seize that, if you seize it, if you don't, and you just want to, you know, drag 2016, which I think everybody could agree, it's incredible. I was sitting here thinking, I'm like, my God, just looking in the media or Twitter or all over the place, just 2016 was pretty bad for everybody. Obviously, everybody had their high points, but geez, man, 2016 just seemed to be a nightmare. So let's put that in rearview mirror. Let's get ahead to 2017. Now, 2016 here at Top Gun Options was historic. So that's why, you know, personally some issues, but 2016 TGO, epic growth. We had a lot of full throttle sessions. We had our highest growth in membership, our best performance out of every portfolio in our history, and we're going on 7 years. So 2016 I'd like to talk great about with TGO, but obviously some other stuff. I'm so looking forward to 2017, folks. You have no idea. I have a new life ahead of me, and it's putting a big smile on my face. So here's what we're going to do. At the beginning of every mission, you say "fights on" before you start the fight, obviously. And I don't know if any of you have seen this. Let me see if I can play this video for you. The sound might be a little jumpy. Maybe if I minimize it a little bit. Let me see if you can hear this real quick. 1 sec. And listen to what I say at the beginning of this video. All right. Now, why did I show you that? Because sometimes, you know, I end my emails with "fights on." That's what we say at the beginning of a mission. 3, 2, 1, fights on. So fights on for 2017, and it's going to be epic. Now, whenever we get done a mission, training, combat, or in the business consulting I do, we knock out what's called a debrief. And we talk about what worked, what didn't, and what we're going to do better going forward. So I just put up some goods and others for the, and I missed one there. I meant to put Brexit, but let me go through some of these real quick, and I want you guys y'all who showed up to help me out with some goods and others here. But we'll go through the goods first. Obviously we nailed the election and the rally. Got some calls over the holidays from some folks who were very complimentary up in Chicago and New York. Might open some opportunities for us here at TGO because we did. We were one of the few folks in the industry to call a Trump victory and a rally. I briefed y'all on Goldman Sachs, Citigroup, JP Morgan, all predicting Clinton, and a Clinton rally, or at least a continuation of what the market was doing. And then hell, all of them, Citi was the biggest one that said if Trump wins, the market corrects 5%. One of the dumbest calls I've ever heard. And of course, you really don't hear about any of those really bad calls. So it just goes to show you that the 6, 7, 8, however big your head is, inches of grain matter between your ears is just the same as everybody else's around the globe. Just because somebody works at Goldman Sachs and they've been doing this stuff doesn't mean they're right all the time. So we nailed it. And that's one of the reasons I'm really happy about 2016. Didn't necessarily nail the Brexit, but nailed all the trades around it. As it came down to the wire, I thought they'd leave because that's the British. Hey, we like being independent, kind of like our, slow cousin across the Atlantic that left us. Why don't we leave the EU? But as it got closer, and I made the mistake, this is really how we nailed the election as well, because I looked at the Brexit. The polls were completely wrong. So I did a coin flip towards the end there, and I said, they're probably going to stay just because the polls are way too tight, and when people get in there, they might be scared. I was wrong with that, but it didn't matter. For those of you who were here at the time, we were trading bullish double verticals on VXX going into that thing and also out of it, and some SPX bull put spreads as well. So we nailed trades around it, but I missed that one, the actual result. But that gives us hope as options traders that we can do anything we want to do. You can be wrong on something, but still make a hell of a lot of money. And when you trade stocks, that doesn't happen. As I said in my intro, record year as far as performance because of the Brexit and because of the election. Now, the 2015 with all those Fed meetings and stuff like that was our second best year because of all those Fed meetings. We might taper, we might do this and all sorts of stuff. And same thing for 2014. So our performance has just literally done one of those up and to the rights, and I'm very happy with it. New members. PLTB the other day had about 189 members, and that obviously not everybody can join. We have people that haven't even watched me live. They just watch the recordings because they can't join that time doesn't work. So record number of new members. That creates some problems that I'm working on, whether it's technology or being able to answer questions in the room. So we're going to talk about that in a little bit. But I'm very, very happy with the performance of Top Gun Options portfolios and also our new strategic partners at bottom bullet down there. A lot of you hadn't even heard of Top Gun Options. I mean, you all know how the industry works. You end up on my email list because you were on somebody else's email list and we email for each other, how all that stuff works. And it does my heart a lot of good. And I forget who posted that in the ready room. I don't have it in front of me, but a nice long paragraph about how, me, Annie, Doug, everybody here at TGO is essentially, helped them, really take their trading to the next level and save for retirement, college, and all sorts of stuff. And that really makes me smile. And, there's people who are here who are like, I didn't even know you guys existed. And now we found a home and we're not going anywhere. Technology-wise, new website. For those of you who are here halfway through the year, you knew we were on kind of an older, clunky website. It was kind of Frankensteinish. Whenever we wanted to do something, it was like an F4 Phantom. If you guys have ever seen like a Vietnam era F4, looked great, flew fast, but sitting on the ramp, it leaked a lot of fuel, and it was just a lot of maintenance. So that was our new website. The new Joint Strike Fighter, many of you seen in the news because Trump's going after it. They just, if something breaks, they pull out a black box and put in a brand new one. So it's made to be very, very functional, and that's what this new website is doing for us. Now, if any of you know about technology or moving from a Frankenstein to a Joint Strike Fighter, it's a lot of moving parts. And during a lot of those moving parts, there were some tech issues, and I certainly apologize for those. But again, a lot of stray trons firing all over the place. I can't control, and our techies did the best with it. So hopefully it wasn't too inconvenient. Now, before I close out the goods, any other, for the folks that could join today, any other, we call them goods. Instead of saying, hey, here's what was good and here's what's bad, we just say others because we learn from our bads, don't we? Everything on the right we're fixing or going to fix, so I'm not going to call them bads. I'm going to call them others. So for the folks that joined, any other goods since you've been here at TGO? If you can just type that in your chat box, let me know. If not, we can just go ahead and I can move on to the bads, because like I said, we learn more from the bads than we do from the goods. And if you think of any as we go along, you can add those. So it's funny. I said, hey, one of the goods is a new website. One of the others is a new website. So that was the transition. It worked. Wasn't seamless for some folks. Again, when you switch websites, the DNS server, I learned a lot about technology during this, as you can tell, and some people get scraped off along the way because of their internet provider or ISP, or they don't recognize the new site, and whatever. Carry the one, mouse eats the cheese and the rocket fires, and we hooked you up. Text issues. Again, as we move from old website to new website, we used to be able to put each text alert that Doug and I would send out on the website. So we have a record of it. We can't do that on this site. We're looking at fixes to do that. Remember, we're one of the only financial training firms in the industry that sends out text alerts. First of all, it's not cheap. Each one of those texts is very expensive, and it's, sends out to 500, 600 people. The math gets rather large. So, but we do that because it needs to be timely. Okay, so, and some of you, it's still a handful. Out of the 600, 700 paying members, nearly 1,000 paying members, just 10, 20 of you are, to this day still kind of having text issues. And I know it's frustrating. It's obviously frustrating for you, more frustrating for you, and I understand that. But remember, with our text system, it's a radio station. If we're broadcasting, we're broadcasting. If if 600 people are hearing me and 20 people aren't, it's not that, hey, your radio station's down. It isn't. It's down for you. Whether you're in a tunnel or behind a mountain, that might be why you're not hearing. But we're broadcasting, so the thing's working. So keep working with our techies. Keep working with Andy as needed to work through those issues. Sometimes it's on your cell provider's end because it comes from a 5-digit phone number. Some folks think that's spam, and it doesn't get doesn't get through. So, but we have some text issues. Email delivery. Now, again, same amount of people, maybe a fraction, 2, 3, max 5% of members here have some email delivery issues. Or actually, I wouldn't say delivery, it's email reception. Because again, if I blast out an email to, like at full throttle, to 2,500 traders, and there's 100 of them that said, I didn't get that email, that's not us. It's either in spam or who knows. So again, our techies have walked those people through those issues. I know it's a pain in the butt sometimes to get a new email address, but it really isn't. This isn't Netscape and all those guys in the old days, AOL. It takes you 0.03 seconds, literally almost, to open a Gmail account. Gmail, we have a 99.9% delivery, period. Other ones like Hotmail, AOL, insert your name here, Comcast, some of the legacy ones, we go right to spam or not at all. Because obviously when you send out a lot of emails like us, you send out one that's got a spam word in it like get rich quick, and you guys know we never say anything like that. But as an example, you get put on their naughty list, and sometimes it's really hard to get off. So I strongly recommend, if you're one of those folks that is a little hit or miss with our email, and we can see, Annie can see if it was delivered and if it was opened or not. So we can see on our end what's going on. But if you have any of those issues, still, again, work with support. One of the others was also the Ready Room. Halfway through the year, when we transitioned website, the Ready Room, Doug and I used to get an email that said, hey, somebody just posted in the Ready Room, here's the subject, and we can go in there almost immediately and check. That system is busted. Our techies are on it. Don't ask me why it's so hard to let us know that there's new posts in the Ready Room, but they're working on that. So that just means Doug and I have to go through there 2-3 times a day and see if there's new posts. That's on Doug and I. Okay, so my apologies and I know there's a couple in there from the holidays. To be honest with you, I decompressed over the holidays, man. Spent some time with my kids, with Annie, and used the end of the year because we really sprinted in 2016. I need to recharge my batteries and get airborne for 2017. So I'll get on those today. I think there's 2 or 3 that are outstanding, and I'll get on them. Before we move on to the next slide, does anybody have any others, so to speak? Anything, hey, Wiz, this just didn't work out for me in 2016, or this is an issue that I see that you guys can do better. What can we be doing better for the folks that showed up? And if you're watching a recording of this, do me a favor, speaking of the Ready Room, go in the Ready Room and let us know. Hey, Wiz, watch the recording. Here are some things I think you guys could do better. Anything before I move on? And I know it may take you some time to type. If you're typing something right now, no worries. I'll go back to you if you have any, hey, Wiz, here's what I think you could be doing better. Somebody, I did see a post the other day that said, hey, I'm 90% happy with TGO, 10% not, and here's the things that just some minor items we can clean up. That's great. I love that stuff. The 90%, thanks for all the compliments. Now I'm going to focus on the 10%. I'd love 100%, but that's physically impossible. 90 is still an A to me. All right, so let's do a quick portfolio review and take a look at how we did. Here's the primary live trade brief, and so we had a really good year in the primary live trade brief. $1.88, about 188,000, 294. So that's phenomenal. That's a good return. Remember, I started this portfolio in 2011, whenever it was, 6 years ago, 7 years ago, with $100,000, and we're up here at 546. So 5 times in 6 years we've grown the portfolio 5 times as much, or 5.5 times. So that's a snowball. That's pretty good. I think 2012 or 2013 was kind of our worst. We've never had a quote down year. I consider a down year, you ready for this, not to be triple digits. I think we were at like a 67% return in 2000, and I didn't keep track of that I could probably do that. I'm not going to do it now. But just know that we had a really good year. Some of the misses, obviously, China. One of the mistakes I made this year, no, it was 2015, never mind. Remember when China really had their stock market boom, when hairdressers in Shenzhen were trading, and our FXI trade, a couple trades were up like 20-ish grand in a couple months. I should have gotten out of those. I know all those bubbles pop, but I was wrong in saying that I thought it would be 2008 for China, meaning that the Chinese government would step in and fix it. Well, they tried to. Remember, they threw everything but the kitchen sink. They wouldn't let people sell short. They wouldn't let brokers. You couldn't even sell. They ordered hedge funds or not hedge funds, pension funds and companies to buy. That didn't even stop it. I thought their 2008-like response to it would be enough, and it wasn't. But this year, we all know, and I'll talk about Asia here in a little bit, that we need to bail out of FXI. Nike, it's coming back to life, but Morgan Stanley was flat. We know our Goldman Sachs and JP Morgan trades are crushing it. If you guys have any questions about these positions and what I like going forward, we'll do more tomorrow morning. But I'm really happy with overall how we did. I mean, it's just good stuff. Some other misses. Japan, I'm out of. You guys know my feelings on Japan now. We had a couple Facebook trades here and there. The XLE was a big lose. I had a big loser in the XLE with a long position, a long call diagonal, but we traded the heck out of the front month. Remember this time last year, December and January, as the markets imploded and oil was all over the place, we traded the heck out of the XLE, and it worked out. SPX, you guys know I just love that. You got to love trading the overall market. Remember, it doesn't have single stock risk. We're not waking up tomorrow morning and the CFO of SPX is on a private jet with all the cash from SPX. It's physically impossible. And SPX tends to move with domestic political events, economic events, or even world events. So we'll be all over that. Apple we'll talk about in a couple minutes. GLD, ignore it. I'm out of it. That thing's it's an emotional trade. I hate emotional trades. I've traded it for so long, and it's worn me down. So I decided to split from the GLD. If you're in it, let me give you my lessons learned as a debrief. It's going to wear you out. Okay, let me just say that. XLK technology. The RSX is Russia, and that's looking great for this year. We'll talk about what's going on with Trump and Russia. I just want to talk about performance. So there was the performance. I think it ended up being 120% for 2016, something like that. Okay. Let's take a look at, I think I said weekly options and urgent alert. This year I decided to collapse them into one portfolio just for me, for being able to manage stuff. Because it's having 4 individual logins, portfolios, and all this stuff was getting a lot. So since there's only one or two weekly options trades per week, I said, why don't I just throw that together with the urgent alert portfolio? Now I have to track the performance separately, but that's on me. So urgent alert and weekly options went really well. We had a month and a half there, August through September, or no, it was about 2 months, where we just it was historic. I didn't want to write it down because I was going to jinx myself, but it was like a month and a half where we had like 1 or 2 losing weekly options trades. And I mean, people were just like, it was epic. Now, if you remember during that epicness, what did I say? I said, this is going to end. You do not have these streaks forever. And, they go on. And it was funny. We did a full throttle launch around then. And then, of course, I got cold 2 or 3 weeks in a row of like a couple misses. And, of course, coaches lose games and players win games. So I get that feeling. I know that feeling when you show up somewhere, and whether it's skiing or going to be going skiing the end of the month up at John Thomas's place. I got to take Annie to see snow for the first time for her birthday. Don't tell her this. Surprise. January 30th is her birthday. But I hate when you show up and people are like, oh, you should have been here last week. The powder was 20 feet deep. Or surfing here at the beach, down here at the beach, and oh, you should have been here yesterday. The waves were 10 feet big. It's like, okay, whatever. Again, SPX, you guys know weekly options-wise, SPX is one of my babies. Performance-wise, 121 grand. This is great. It's almost like we double the portfolio each. Look at this. 3 years ago, we started weekly options, and we're up to 300 grand. So that's pretty nice. 100, 200, 300,000. That's a nice. Man, I couldn't. And again, I didn't plan that out. Men lie, numbers don't. There's the numbers right there. So $1.21 this year is pretty nice. The leader is obviously SPX. That's mainly weekly options, but I do trade some urgent alert SPX. I sent one out on Friday. I did not get filled, or whenever that was. Lose all my days here. It's a long holiday. Yeah, I didn't get filled on this one. The 2215, 2220. We'll talk about that tomorrow. JP Morgan's looking great. Look at these 2 JP Morgan trades, guys. And the financials aren't done yet. I'll talk about them in a little bit. This Jan 18 trade is up $25,000. And it's got a year to go from this month. Unless JP Morgan collapses and the financial sector collapses, which I really don't think is going to happen, I think that they're still due for more of a run. And then the Jan 19 trade is already up $5,000, $5,000 on the Jan 19 trade, and that's looking awesome. So everybody should be happy with that. So really good performance. Like I said, there were some weeks where I took max losses on a weekly options trade. I hate that. But if I didn't eject, I still believe my strategic mindset, my commit criteria, that something would change by the end of the week. But there were many times, folks, where Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, we're looking great, and then a world event happens, on Friday, and then it's like, boom. Well, those happen. And I think if you've been here long enough, you know that. That's why a lot of veterans, there are folks who are here for a month and they split. I'm like, it makes me crazy. I'm like, you got to hang for a little while here, folks, to see it work. If you show up during a little bit of a cold streak or something like that, I know it'll turn you off a little bit. Just sit on your hands. You don't have to do anything. That's what's beautiful. Last week we didn't put on a weekly options trade because I told you, I'm like, hey, little low volume, kind of a dead week. There's 2 guys, Joey and Rocco, trading on the New York Stock Exchange floor, and they can move the market around, and they did to the downside. So glad we didn't do anything last week. But those weeks happen, folks. But more often than not, my mission objective is to gain at least $1,000, average $1,000 gain per week in the weekly options model portfolio. And obviously that's 52 grand just straight, not annualized. And and we exceeded that. Okay. I think we averaged $1,900. So I know sometimes some of those weeks are like, oh crap, come on, man. We get those back is what I'm saying. Got good old SDS down there in the red. That's fine, which is interesting because look, the VXX, net in the urgent alert service made money. And remember, VXX is a hedge against volatility spiking, and SDS is a hedge against the market pulling back. So 2 different trades. Remember that. And I'm going to hit this year because a tweet, from Trump, a Trump tweet, say that 10 times fast, can send the market tumbling or just volatility spiking. So we're gonna have a good time there. And then finally, let's do my last portfolio that I manage, which is accelerated retirement. Not all of you are in this, I get it, but just real quick, I'll cover it briefly. Biggest trade of the year, year and a half, I'll call it, but we closed it this year, was obviously the JP Morgan trade for a gain of $35,000, like 35 and some change when I closed it out. And I know people did better than that on your end. So that was, again, epic. Great trade. It came alive, obviously, towards the end, but it's not like, oh, who cares? It's funny how people, well, you got lucky with the election and blah, blah. No, I didn't. I also put that on because I knew the Fed was eventually going to raise rates, and that's why we were going to go up. But no, it wasn't luck. It was skill. We knew that the polls were wrong. Everybody, the conventional media wisdom was wrong, and we nailed it. And there it is, JP Morgan. Looking good there. Silver, we had gold in the other portfolio. I'm out of silver as well. Just not a position that does anything for me. A little more commercial uses than gold, obviously, in electronics and stuff, but I'm not feeling it. And when you don't feel it, you don't trade it, right? If you don't have an absolute sense. Remember, when I talk about trading, folks, I talk about like being a card counter. No card counter walks up into Vegas, sits down and just plops, 10 grand on the first hand he sees and says, all right, let's go. And then the 10 grand's gone. They stand back, they stand behind the table, they watch the deck, they get a count, it's called. That's why they call it card counting. And then they trade. Same thing, or then they gamble. We don't do that. All right, so that was just a quick portfolio review. Very, very nice. I didn't get the year-to-date, but I forget what it was. Yeah. I'll tell you an AR on Wednesday. Now, I don't want to put 3 T's up there, but I have 3 T's now into fear. What's interesting, ladies and gentlemen, is I came up with that acronym at the end of 2015. So the acronym that many of you joined under when I was, doing any of my marketing or free trading webinars was To Fear 2016. Guess what? It's the same thing for 2017. Okay, but I'm adding a couple more T's. So let's take a look. Again, one of my career highs was predicting that election and also the rally there. The only firm to predict, the Trump upset. It was absolutely nuts. Stayed up until 2, 3 in the morning, and I was stunned. Saw the futures tank. I'm like, oh boy, here we go. I was wrong. The conventional wisdom was right. I'm an idiot. And then they did this. And then the next day, I'm like, wow. It was like winning the lottery. So, and a lot of you did, obviously, as well, with a lot in the trade. So Trump in 2017, man, it's some of the issues that we're seeing during the transition are going to be huge this year. So we'll talk about them in a second. But his method of delivery is, we covered that earlier, is Twitter. It cracks me up that the stock sucks, and it's the communication device that the president uses to get directly to the people. He doesn't go through MSNBC. He doesn't go through CNN. He doesn't go through Fox. He's going to you. This is the first president since, pre-media. They used to hop on a train, pull into towns, and get on the back there and talk. Or on a stagecoach. I mean, presidents used to be able to talk directly to the people, and then the media dubbed themselves the fourth estate or whatever the hell they call themselves. And we've had a lot of problems with that because there's a lot of liberals in the media. Now, that's not me being me. That's them telling us that. 85% in some Rasmussen poll of people in journalism or the media identifies themselves as Democrats or liberals. But yet, in that same poll, they're like 100% of them say they can be independent. It's a complete lie. And the one thing that this election really has helped us do is shine a light on the fact that the media is completely biased. Now everybody knows it. Okay, except a lot of people. I'll put it like that. A lot of people still think that they really haven't learned their lesson, right? I thought the shellacking that the media took and the lowest, they're even like rated below Congress right now, and Congress is at like 11% approval rating of, I thought they'd do some soul searching. That's what professionals do when you get shellacked is you debrief and say, man, we got this completely wrong. They learned nothing. As a matter of fact, they're actually turning up their anger, right? So a tweet can alter one of your positions completely to the downside. Exactly, Karen. The media and their biases made themselves irrelevant. They have minimized themselves to, I don't even care anymore. And a lot of you say, I get my news from you, Wiz, and nowhere else, which is pretty funny. So this carries, the Twitter carries some single stock risk, doesn't it? We saw in December that Boeing, with the 740, the Air Force One, he put a torpedo in that. Lockheed with the F-35. This brought a tear to my eye that the guy even knows what an F-18 is. He's like, give me a squadron of F-18s over one Joint Strike Fighter. Lower the price, lower the cost. CEO of Lockheed. You got it, sir. And it's disgusting. I was a consultant for L3 in Arlington, Texas, when I lived in Fort Worth, testing F-18 simulators for the Canadians and the Australians. And I just saw how the defense contracting works, man. They fly in, these procurement officials, the L3 guys, take them out to a strip club and steak, and it's the golf. And I'm like, do they want to see the simulators? And they add, here we'll just add another $5 million under the cost overruns. It was gross. I couldn't believe it as a taxpayer. I was furious. So thank God we have a guy in office who's going to fix that. Still a T here that we have to worry about, ladies and gentlemen, is terrorism. Look at what, my God, man. One of the reasons I told you not to be long going into a holiday weekend, and I pound the table on that, or even most weekends, is the tail risk of a terrorist event. Now, obviously, the market is open today, and here's the sad part, maybe by Tuesday, nobody cares about what happened in Istanbul. Santa Claus goes in and mows down 39 people. It does get more horrific than that. And I'm telling you, ladies and gentlemen, that's going to happen here. It has. The nightclub up in Orlando, up the street, we kind of forgot about that. That was a hate crime, right, Mrs. Attorney General? San Bernardino, Fort Hood, that was workplace violence with Major Hassan. That was a workplace. It wasn't a military base. He wasn't shouting Allah Akbar and shooting up, guys, whatever. There's going to be a bigger one. I think 2017 we get hit with something, folks. I don't want to be right, and it's bad. So oil, we still know that it's still going to be a joke this year. But oil prices, we'll brief this tomorrow, have kind of stabilized for now. But we know the OPEC cheating. The Saudi oil minister, the former Saudi oil minister, actually admitting that those agreements we tend to cheat on them. Duh. I told you that they do, and then this guy confirms it. So oil is going to push around the market a little bit in 2017. I don't think as bad as 2016, okay? Because this time last year, December and January, when oil was shellacking the markets, we learned what? Here's what we learned. To me, it was like a 2008 financial tsunami hit. We lived. Eventually, after the dust settled, things went up. Same thing with oil last year. The oil tsunami hit, and then we figured out that people still need oil. Shocker. So I don't think we're going to have this in 2017 at a $26, holy crap, it's going to zero. But it is still going to push us around like a wheelbarrow, especially in a slow week. If a big inventory build in Cushing is seen, the price is going to drop. So oil is still on the radar. Obviously, the Fed, the F into fear, she's going to be raising rates. Are we going to have one per quarter? Are we going to have two? Are we going to be data dependent, or are we going to put it on a flight schedule and say these are when they're going to happen? So the Fed is still relevant. I think she's gone. I think it's a 10-year term, right? But she serves at the pleasure of the president, and Trump on the campaign trail said he'd fire her. But she was asked at her last news conference, "You hanging around?" She's like, "I'm hanging around to the end of my term." Like, what's the problem? Like, didn't you hear that your new boss doesn't want you here? It's a weird dynamic. Some people just, I don't know. But again, with the Fed raising interest rates, financials are going to get airborne even more. I'm predicting it. Europe, the Brexit is a thing of the past. They're still hitting it back and forth like a tennis ball. Are we going to do it? Are we going to not? How long is it going to take? If that comes up again, I don't think it's going to be a massive event like we saw this year. Just like oil and just like the financial tsunami of 2008, the Brexit was the initial event we all freak out about. We didn't. We made money. The world freaks out about. And then the sun rises, folks. I told you this going into the Brexit. I said the sun is going to rise. And, we're going to be good to go. Italy, yeah, their bank problems. Europe still worries me in general, but it's not a place I like to trade because it's just too fractured. Asia, the A&2 fear. You guys know I'm done with China. Companies are having problems getting their cash out. They're shooting arrows in a trade war. They might even be shooting in a real world war soon. They stole one of our underwater acoustic devices that just tests the salinity. Yeah, it's to get data for submarines so we can shoot torpedoes and have our sonar be better than theirs. I get it, but it was unclassified. But still, the Chinese warship came up and stole it. Holy crap. What did Obama do? Yeah, exactly. So China, we're out of. You should be out of, but we can fix that on a dime. Trump takes a plane flight over there. Great meeting. You know what? It's going to be huge. I got us a trade deal, huge. Everything's fair. We're back in China. Okay, so we can be nimble. We can be nimble as options traders. I got a bunch of emails and thanks from folks. It's another thing I should have said we nailed was get out of FXI. As soon as those initial kind of puffs of smoke from Trump and China happened, I'm like, that's it. This guy can't shut his mouth. He's going to get bigger. He's not going to back down, and that's what happened. So Asia, mainly China, we got to keep an eye on. They're arming their islands. I told you this was going to be an issue, folks, a year ago when they sailed off their coast and went to an atoll and started dumping sand on it and made a runway and missile defense systems. It's a fixed aircraft carrier, folks, and they got them all over the Pacific now. What did Obama do? Nothing. So and they're really flexing their muscles with Taiwan. That would be a black swan event if China wakes up one day, and they can, folks. They call it a renegade province. We think it's an independent nation. We have sworn, we have the Defense of Taiwan Act, that if China attacks Taiwan, we will defend it. You think that would have happened under Obama? So world events, folks, it's so funny because some people get in here, especially my free webinars, and they're like, listen to your politics and crap, give me a trade. And then they're broke in a week because something massively happened that they thought was me ranting politically. It's all, folks, if you don't think politics and this stuff drives the markets, you're nuts. Look how big the FXI pulled back on Twitter and China stealing a sonar buoy. All of these events matter. And that's why a lot of people who aren't at TGO suck at trading. And finally, the R, as you guys know, is Russia. This is great. The RSX trades, this is great as a trader. It's awful as an American. I can't believe the guy's getting in bed with Russia. And it's completely embarrassing what Obama has done. Completely embarrassing, going out the door, kick out 35 spies, this, that, sanctions, that. I'll keep this rant quick. When he woke up one day, Putin, and said, you know what, there's some Russians that might be in danger in Crimea. We're taking that back. It's exactly what Adolf Hitler said with the Sudetenland. There's some ethnic Germans in there that are scared, so we're taking that over. Same language, folks. What did Merkel and Obama and the world do? Stop or I'll say stop again, Putin. He's like, really? Eastern Ukraine. We're going to take that too. Half of a democratic country that left the Soviet Union, that wants to be part of us, they want to join our club. What did Obama do? He sent them meals ready to eat, MREs, and blankets. And he sent them in civilian jets because he didn't want to put them in Air Force cargo planes because that would upset Putin. How could you upset him anymore? He's already, it's nuts. Shoots down a civilian airliner. Imagine being on your airliner at 35,000 feet and all of a sudden you're in your seat falling to death and you can't breathe. Most horrific death, folks. They shoot down an airliner. What do we do? A little bit of sanctions. Now, going out the door, Russia might have hacked John Podesta's emails and found out his, ceviche recipe or whatever it was. Are you kidding me? Did the Russians add 2 million votes to the popular vote? It's so stupid to hear liberal. Over the holidays, I just kept my mouth shut to hear people like, oh, Russia hacked the election. I'm like, did they go into the voting machines and add more to the popular vote? Did the Russians hack Hillary's head and tell her not to campaign in Pennsylvania, Ohio, Michigan, Wisconsin, like the states? those brick wall states. I'm stunned. I'm stunned that Obama going out the door has done this. But I'm not. We can't be stunned. I'm pretty sure going out the door he is going to appoint a Supreme Court justice, interim, and all sorts of bad stuff's going to happen. This is awful. It's going to be awful. So going into the new year, we'll talk about some trading stuff, but let me finish up with some tactical items. Real quick, if you're in the Mad Options Trader service, remember you only get the weekly options and primary live trade brief. You don't get access to the ready room. You don't get Doug. You don't get my accelerated retirement. You don't urgent alert. You don't get everything else. So if you want to upgrade your Mad Options Trader, you came to us from John Thomas. Give Annie a call, okay? 754-300-1084. Okay? Now, if you came in from our Black Friday or you're on a month-to-month subscription, and because we haven't done I think all the Full Throttle folks that joined us in December are probably on their first monthly cycle here. I'd upgrade now to save money. In this month that you've been here, you've seen us do pretty damn good. If you were a tire kicker and saying, hey, I'd like to just try it month to month and then upgrade, I do it now because as we do our 2017 strategic plan is more or less done. That's on me to finish, and we're probably going to have a price increase. The only people who aren't immune to price increases are people on annuals. So if we raise, prices here, which based on 2017 we most likely will, you guys aren't grandfathering into that. It's only the annual folks, the folks who made the commitment to say, hey, I believe in Top Gun options, and this is where I need to be. So lock in your annual subscription now, so you don't see any sort of price increase. Okay. Here's some action items for us, for me, for you to take a look at. I'm still in the process. I knocked out a couple of them over the break. Evergreen training video section. I'm going to do a long call diagonal with a protected put 20-minute video, a synthetic stock, a bull put. I'm going to, 7, 8, 9, 10 of my favorite tactics that I like to employ. I'm going to make evergreen. Evergreen means a bull put spread is the same as it was in 1982 as it will be in 2010. So that's what evergreen means. Because I'm not talking about like, a bull put spread on Apple right today and you got to put it on. It's a video that's going to be there in perpetuity. It's going to be $495, but you guys, as long as you're current members, I'll give you access to that. So that is my gift to you for 2016, 2017. That'll be your Christmas gift, Kwanzaa, winter solstice, whatever you want to call it, gift. And we'll hopefully you guys will enjoy all that. And we're allowed to grow because of this. Here's what I'm going to do. Because going forward, if I do a long call diagonal, tomorrow morning, and a bunch of new people join us the next Tuesday, I don't want to sit there and when somebody goes, hey, can you go over this long call diagonal again? I'm going to go, no, I can't, because I want to start making the live trade briefs a lot more actionable. Yeah, it's training, but it's trading. So I want to get back as we grow. I want to be able to say, hey, Steve, great question on how to manage the front month calls. I need you to go watch. You know what? Let me bring up my screen and show you. So I'm actually going to point people to these training videos instead of sitting here saying, all right, everybody else just kind of go to sleep for 15 minutes as I explain a long call diagonal to Steve and the 3 new people out of the 300 people in here. Isn't that cool? So that I kind of was brainstorming on how to grow and scale, and that was one of the main things that I came up with. Next week, starting at January 9th, that's next Tuesday, not tomorrow morning, we're going to move the PLTB to 10 a.m., okay? That extra hour gives me, remember, amateurs open the market, okay? You never trade the open. So it's a little distracting sometimes when I'm doing my 9 to 9:30 briefing, and people are like, hey, market's open. Oh, look at this or that. I'm like, okay, that's initial noise. Hey, look, Twitter's up 10% right now. And then I look at it, because I'm distracted now, and it's actually down 10%. I'm like, ah. So the noise of the first half an hour of trading, I want to get rid of. So put that on your calendar. Annie will take care of all this stuff. She'll send out reminder emails and stuff like that. So it'll be 10 a.m. The third bullet there is really good. Doug and his Wingman Group coaching folks are halfway through their sessions, I think. If you haven't heard of it, we'll give you more details when we do the next one. It'll probably be in February. Probably be in February. So we'll do one per quarter. we'll have a couple four full throttle launches. After we do a full throttle launch and people get done with Doug's training, we're going to do a wingman group coaching session. So it's almost like a pyramid. You get Doug's 8 training sessions, and then the next step in the pyramid is what we call wingman group coaching. I think Doug has 7 or 8 people in it. So it's a little bit more expensive, but you get one-on-one training with Doug. He does coaching sessions with you each week, one-on-one for an hour and a half, however long, where he's looking at your stuff and you and a deep dive into you. Then you guys get together as a group, and it's like a mini hedge fund. And Doug's a portfolio manager. So not to take up a lot of bandwidth with it. It's doing really well. It's great. Every time we do one of these, it's cool. And then at the top of the pyramid for 2017 is what we call the Commanding Officers Club. These are people who do one-on-one. It's not group. It's just Doug and I with you. You can do half a year with Doug and then half a year with me. You can do a full year with me. We meet weekly or email weekly. And then, once or twice a month, maybe we'll go on a GoToWebinar and take a look at portfolio and all sorts of stuff. We come up with individual trade plans for you. Now, that's obviously the top of the pyramid here at TGO, and it's our most expensive, obviously. We can work out financing options and stuff like that. But if people are serious, hey, man, I want one-on-one because I want direct access to you, direct access with Doug, 24/7. You guys get my cell phone number in case of emergency, give me a call type of stuff. And we're that tight. Any questions on any of this stuff, just give me a call, like I said. And remember, in 2000 and, remember, for support, any support issues, do not call any support at topgunoptions.com. And here's why, it's mainly for record keeping. I mean, if you have a tech issue, we're playing telephone because you send or you call or you email, she's got to send it to her. It's easier if you send an email, here's my issue. She's on it all day, folks, so it's pretty tight. If it's not a tight turnaround, something's going on our end, and we apologize for it, but she's pretty, as many of you have interacted with Annie, she's pretty tight with getting back to you with your issues. So just call. If you're upgrading, you want to purchase something, stuff like that, call her. That's fine. But she can't be on the phone all day, talking through how to, clear your cookies. She can reply to an email that says, hey, I can't log in or something like that. We have a 5-step thing to clean up and get you logged. Oh, okay, that worked. Please do not call, okay? Some other action items in 2017. Doug did test or is testing go-to training where it's up to 200 people and you can see chat. So I know like today, you guys can't see each other's chat, or tomorrow morning. It's very helpful for you guys to be able to do that. We used to be on WebEx like 2 years ago. I forget why WebEx started to be bad and we moved. I think it was cost, but you could see each other's chat on there. So we're kicking around for 2017 how you guys can interact more with each other, because it really does help for you guys to see, like, Diane's up 35 grand at Goldman Sachs, or you can chat with her behind the scenes. Hey, when did you get into it? All sorts of stuff. So I have that for action. And we certainly want you guys to be able to interact with each other and become more like a squadron, more like a family. Okay? So hopefully you guys find that good to go. We might have I have a buddy of mine who's up in Chicago. He might join us as a new trader, as our third trader, because we are growing, like I said. We might do options on commodities. So idiot me who's trying to trade oil or gold or silver or, any, pork bellies or something like that. I'm usually calling those type of guys to see what they're thinking from my days in Chicago. A bird landed on my shoulder and said, why don't you hire one of these guys to actually manage an options on commodities portfolio? So I'm going to send out maybe a survey monkey or something like that to see how many of you would be interested in a options on commodities or futures, and see, and we'll take the temperature and see how it's looking. Okay. And like I said, any support issues, please, in 2017, because it is tough for her. I know she's too nice. Annie's too nice sometimes, and she just sits on the phone for like an hour with somebody who just wants to talk to her about Brazil or how life is. She's got a business to run, folks, and I need her. Okay. All right. So real quick, let me wrap up by saying, and we'll talk about this stuff tomorrow morning. I think this little correction right here, not a correction, this was a take profits and see if we're really going to go higher. We are right here. You see this rip your face off pop right there at the beginning of December? Remember that? We're right here at the bottom of it, the top of it, right? This bottom is at the top of this. Very, very critical day in the market tomorrow. Very critical day to see if we're going to be going up, down, or sideways. I think we're going to hold this, and we're going to chop sideways into the inauguration. I'm really creeped out about the inauguration, folks. We definitely have to talk about volatility tomorrow and hedging because I think, ISIS security is going to be incredible, but it doesn't mean that, and not to give them any ideas because I'm sure they've already thought about this, most likely I would not be staying in a Trump Towers on the 20th of January. If you are traveling anywhere, they might as well just put, instead of Trump on the top on those buildings, put bullseye. If there's a Trump Towers in Kenya, I wouldn't be staying at that place. So I'm a little worried about the inauguration, but hopefully, I do pray to God. I think if I walked into church, I might get hit by lightning. But I am a man of faith. I'm very spiritual, as is Annie, and I'm praying that nothing happens. Okay, but praying and trading, that doesn't get you rich. So we're going to look at some more volatility hedges for the PLTB portfolio tomorrow. I know I have one in urgent alert, and we should be we should be good to go. We'll talk about are the financials too high? We'll talk about Apple tomorrow. Apple's starting to cut for the first quarter of 2017. They're cutting their iPhone production by 10%. Whoops. But surging buybacks. Hey, Apple. It's so funny, man. On a daily basis, I almost changed my opinion on Apple, but we're in it to win it, and we'll get back to that. So I'm going to jump in the ready room now and answer some outstanding issues that people have had over the holidays, and I got to get back to my evergreen videos. Anything else before I leave? I know only, what do we have? About 15 people out in here, about 600 members. So I know people are traveling, or it was a down day for a lot of people. So if you're watching the replay, like I said, get in the ready room and let me know what's not working, what's working. Thanks, no thanks, all sorts of stuff, and I'll fix it. Okay. All right, guys. In case you don't have anything else, happy hunting. Make sure you hedge. Looking forward to a phenomenal 2017. I really am, personally, professionally, emotionally, spiritually, you name it, with a Lee on the end of it. I'm very much looking forward to it. It's going to be an epic year. 2016 wasn't the best for a lot of us. It was the best for Top Gun Options, but we're gonna do better. I'm gonna do better personally. Be a better man. Be a better father. Be a better partner to Annie, and I'm looking forward to it. Okay. All right, guys. So have a great rest of your day. I'll see you tomorrow morning at 0900, and then next Tuesday it'll be at 10 a.m. Okay. You're welcome, guys. Have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you all tomorrow. God bless.